All right, we're heading. We're gonna head south on Highway 93 from the bed and breakfast towards Hamilton, Montana. I had to stop right away on this Highway 93 south of the B&B. Look at this. We got horses out here on one side and buffalo. A whole herd of them. Look at that. Crossing a railroad track. Look at that. A whole herd of buffalo. Wow. Neat. A little bit far away, but there they are, just taking a break. Going through the little town of Lolo, and we're going to take a ride on Highway 12 right here to the Travelers Rest State Park. There's the Nez Perce Trail. Travelers Rest State Park, National Historic Landmark, ahead 500 feet. And look at that. The Holt Heritage Museum and H-Bar-R Ranches. And here's the turnoff. It's one of the many Montana state parks. Travelers Rest State Park. All right, here's the visitor center. It's a bookstore and a museum. So let's go check it out. Well, hello.
Hi.
What's your name?
My name is Martha Lindsay. I'm the program director here at Travelers Rest.
Well, tell us what this Travelers Rest Park is all about.
Well, we kind of have a few things going on. Our main mission here at Travelers Rest is we are in a campsite of Lewis and Clark along the Lewis and Clark Trail. Lewis and Clark camped here both on their way out west and back east. We are also the only Lewis and Clark site that actually has archaeological evidence that Lewis and Clark were actually here. We were able to excavate their campsite as well as their latrine.
Is that over there?
We actually have some of our evidence over here. So if you come to our museum, we do have a small visitor center here talking specifically about Lewis and Clark. This is our exhibit that talks about the archaeology that we did here. We did a few phases. We used some metal detectors, kind of very basic, and then we had an archaeologist come in and do some magnometers, big fancy word, to actually be able to look underneath the ground before we actually excavated.
And this was one of the discoveries?
Yeah, so one of the items that we found was this button. This is a tomback button, which would have been a military uniform button of the time.
Okay. And then, and what's this here?
Over here we have what we found in the campfire area. So we excavated, we found burnt rock, charcoal, and we found two things. We found a glass trade bead, which was very important to Lewis and Clark, having lots of trade items to have relationships with the native tribes. We also found a piece of melted lead. So when Lewis and Clark came out, they brought a lot of lead with them and had to make their own bullets. So what they would do is take the pieces of lead, melt them down, pour them into a mold, and then when they poured into the mold, some of that melted lead would spill over, creating a puddle. And this would have been that puddle of hot lead that would have hardened.
What was the best evidence you had of Lewis and Clark here?
The best evidence we have of Lewis and Clark here was actually in their latrine.
Huh?
the sink or the bathroom. When they did those magnometer readings, what that did was show disturbances in the ground. And using the order of encampment, so where they would have placed their campsite versus their latrine, we were able to excavate an area of disruption that would have been their latrine. So what they found was decomposed organic matter, which is 200-year-old poop for the scientists out there. But what they found were actually vapors of mercury. And the reason why this was really important is because Lewis and Clark were the only people of that time, during that time period, who would have been using mercury actually as a medicine. When Lewis was preparing for the expedition, he actually went to Dr. Rush in Philadelphia. Dr. Rush, who basically gave him all the medical supplies and medical information he was going to need. And he gave him Dr. Rush's pills, which were mainly made of mercury.
Wow.
And the rule was, if you were feeling a little sick, take 1. If you were feeling sick, take 2. If you were really out of it, take 3 and lay down. However, what they actually did was clean out your system. So most of the men spent a lot of time in the bathroom after taking Dr. Rush's pills. So while some of it was the mercury was absorbed into the body, it actually, a lot of it was flushed out while they were going to the bathroom. So having mercury evidence was really important of saying this was Lewis and Clark. Trade items, bullets, those things could have been left here through the trade network, through other hunters and trappers in the area, but mercury was something very specific to Lewis and Clark and their expedition.
Well, could you show us what else you have here in the museum?
Yes.